Hi, I'm Phil Denton from British new wave of British heavy metal or power metal or whatever heavy metal band ELIXIR, and I've been asked by the people at the Metal Crypt to do a short video telling you about the four most influential albums to me. Choosing four albums, that's a tough ask because there's a lot of music through my life that's kind of influenced me or got into my brain, and affected how I do things, I suppose. But I have managed to squeeze it down to four albums, and so I'd like to start. The first album is from my teenage years, and that album is Pink Floyd, The Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, what a brilliant album that is. And I was 14, I think, when I first heard that album, and up till then albums were just a collection of songs by one artist or another, but The Dark Side of the Moon totally changed what my idea of an album is, because it's like a complete body of work. It's like the songs, how the songs flow, how there's that intro of the heartbeat and the outro of the heartbeat, making it a complete circle from start to finish the album, plus how it's laid out with that great sort of like concluding epic piece, Eclipse, at the end. Is, sort of showed me that, instead of just 10-12 random songs put on an LP, this is a collection of work that has a start, has a big ending, and a complete sort of goes around complete circle back to the heartbeat. And not only that, it's the packaging as well. It's so I love how you've got this image and then it goes into the heartbeat rainbow pattern through the sleeve, going all the way back round to make like a complete circle again. It's not just the music inside, but the sleeve, the packaging is such a perfect album to me. And that opened my eyes. I wasn't playing guitar when I was 14 and heard this album, but this opened my eyes and showed me what albums could be, not just a collection of songs, but a body of work. So Dark Side of the Moon is my first influential album choice. From the age of about 14 to I started getting into rock bands, and I loved Black Sabbath, I loved Deep Purple, those sort of Thin Lizzy, all those sort of 70s rock bands. I lapped it up. But probably the next influential album for me is this one, Rainbow Rising. Now, Rainbow, obviously, people know is Ritchie Blackmore's band after Deep Purple, and so I was interested to hear what he was doing. But I discovered Ronnie James Dio, and Ronnie James Dio, I mean, I could have picked Black Sabbath Heaven and Hell album or Dio's first solo album. They were probably all influential to me. I love Dio's work, and that does have a big influence on our songwriting, I think, and how we make ELIXIR sound. But I'll probably go for Rainbow Rising because of that great epic track at the end, Stargazer. That was when we was writing The Son of Odin and made our first debut album. I was kind of, we had a bunch of songs going on there, and I kind of thought, it isn't quite finished, we need something else, we need something big, grand and epic like Stargazer, something massive to close the album. And so that's when I kind of said to the guys, we need something epic and majestic and grand to finish the album. We need one more song, and we sort of got our heads together and came up with the track Son of Odin, and that kind of was that big finale that we needed to make that Son of Odin album something special. So I could have gone for a lot of Dio's albums, but I picked Rainbow Rising for that one. Then when I was 16 and got a job and started earning some money and could buy myself an electric guitar and started thinking about playing and learning, obviously I was influenced by a lot of bands, and I just got into Judas Priest and had the Stained Glass album and that. But when I was 18, 1980, there were so many great albums out around 79, 80, like Motorhead, Overkill I was into. Michael Schenker, I loved Michael Schenker and UFO. They'd just done the Strangers in the Night live album in 78. And by 1980, Michael Schenker went solo and did the first MSG album. That was a big influence on me. But for my third album, I'm going to pick this one from 1980, Judas Priest, British Steel album. Reason I've gone for that is I was kind of learning to play guitar, and that was kind of guitar sound and that style. I just love that album, and so learning to play, I was picking up my guitar and try and learn the riffs for Breaking the Law and Metal Gods and Living After Midnight, and I love tracks like The Stealer on that album as well. It's a great track. So I would say British Steel was a big influence on my music, my guitar playing, musical style. That was the kind of sound I wanted and the kind of band I was wishing I could put together. And just as a side note, I suppose, a little tale, I did see Judas Priest on that tour at the Rainbow Theatre in London in April the 1st, 1980. And of course that was a great gig for me. But the support band that night was a new band who hadn't had an album out yet, called Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden were about to release their first album a few weeks later in April 1980. So I actually saw Iron Maiden as well, a few weeks before they brought out their debut album. And little did I know then that the drummer Clive Burr would be playing on ELIXIR's second album a few years later. And I had the chance to talk to Clive. Clive, what was it like playing with Judas Priest on tour? And yeah, that's a little side story there to the album. But British Steel, yes, I would say it's a big influence on me. And so I moved to London in 1983, and I met Kev and Nigel, and we had a little jam together and decided to form a band, and ELIXIR came out of that. And we kind of asked each other, what do we want this band to be? I mean, we had the shared interests. We loved Judas Priest, and the guys were into Iron Maiden and Saxon, and we loved Michael Schenker, that sort of thing. We had the common ground, but we kind of said it'd be cool to be like a heavy metal band, but perhaps a bit progressive, perhaps longer songs, more riffs in there, some unusual time changes, interesting stuff. And there were a couple of bands that had just came out that we kind of thought was the sort of blueprint for what we would like ELIXIR to be. First one was an American band called Queensryche, who had just brought out their first album, The Warning, and their self-titled EP before that, which we loved. The second band, a Danish band called Merciful Fate, and I'm going to go for Merciful Fate's Melissa album as my fourth most influential album, because I loved the music on this album. That album from start to finish is awesome. I know, I can remember at the time people were divided by King Diamond singing. Some people loved him, some people hated him. I loved him. I know it's unusual, and that's what made it stand out and what made it special for me. I didn't believe he could probably pull that record off live, but having finally managed to get a chance to see King Diamond live on that Abigail tour back in London in about 1987, 88, I realised that he could do it live. How he singing on the record, obviously not so many layers, there's more layers on the record, but it's not so much about the singing, it's more the music, what Merciful Fate did, that kind of rocking music with the riffs, the time changes, the technical stuff. That was kind of what we wanted ELIXIR to aspire to. I remember our first couple of songs, totaled 15 minutes or something, just riffs everywhere. One of those songs was The Idol. Can't remember what the second song was, but we, over the years, we did kind of think, well, we've got riffs going off here, riffs going off there. Perhaps it's not going in a straight direction of where we want our songs to go. So I think when Paul joined, and Paul and myself was mainly doing the songwriting, I think we sort of kind of trimmed up some of the excess fat to get the song from start to finish in a more smoother way. And perhaps regretfully we didn't go down that full progressive route in the end, but that Melissa album is certainly one of a number of albums around that time, progressive rock. We could have said Cloven Hoof's first album as well as another mention, but yeah, that kind of gave us a blueprint of what we wanted to do with ELIXIR. So that's why I've voted or chosen Melissa there for my fourth album. Well, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed my selections and understood my reasonings for it. We'd love to see you out on the road. ELIXIR are next up in Barcelona at the Metal Cover Festival in November, and then I think we're off to Athens next February. But wherever we go, love to see you on the road. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and all the best. Cheers. Keep rocking.